This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here with journalist and food blogger Ed Charles in Melbourne, Australia. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Probably 2 sheets to the wind. Thanks for you.
Now, tell me a little bit, or tell our viewers a little bit about what you do for a living, and tell me a little bit about Melbourne, if you don't mind.
Well, I've been a journalist my whole life, mainly a business journalist. I turned to food about 6 or 7 years ago. A small magazine I launched, and that became my blog, which is now rated as one of the top food blogs in Melbourne. I totally parochially focus on Melbourne.
And how would people find this particular blog?
So you could Google Melbourne food blog or just go tomatom.com.
Tomatom, so that's
tomato with an M at the end.
Okay. Now your website, your blog, how did that name come about? Speaking of tomatoes.
Tomato. My grandfather was a working class boy from Wales and ended up being working in the Canary Islands. He was actually spying in the Second World War, and eventually he ended up having his own plantations and exporting bananas and tomatoes. So when I started the small magazine up 6 years ago, which became the blog, I was thinking about what would summarise the difference between very good food and very bad food. And there's nothing worse than the horrible unripened tomato that's probably grown hydroponically with very little flavour compared to the beautiful heritage tomato that you pick off the branch in your garden that's body temperature. So it showed, for me, it was the difference between good food and bad food, although I'm not sure many people get that.
Now, tell me a little bit about Melbourne and what it means to you.
Well, Melbourne, I'm English, so I'm new to Melbourne, but I've been living here for 10 years. Melbourne is a wonderfully multicultural place. It's got a European climate. The initial immigrants here, aside from the white English Europeans, Italians, Greeks, subsequently Eastern Europeans, a lot of excuse me for the tram, we have lots of trams, a lot of Asians, and Somalians. It's quite interesting, and the interesting thing about I think the food is especially in Australia, we get that Asian influence because of the proximity to the Asian ingredients and because of the large Asian population. It's freely available even in supermarkets, depending where you go.
And would you say the food scene here was quite developed? I mean, looking at the restaurants that I've seen thus far, it seems like it's quite a multicultural tapestry. There seem to be a number of Asian restaurants that we've passed, Italian restaurants, South American restaurants. We even saw a Turkish restaurant there.
It is. I mean, the big thing. I mean, we started off today going to the Newmarket Hotel, which is South Californian cuisine, Mexican, South American. That's one of the big trends that's hit there. With those, not the Tex-Mex, those fresh, zesty herbs, beautifully cooked meats. And we're talking about meats with provenance and sustainable seafood. But prior to that, then we had the trend of Spanish, Portuguese, those kind of things. Movida here is very popular. There's a chef whose family comes from Barcelona, and they have some iconic dishes they do, like a small crostini with Ortez anchovy and smoked tomato sorbet. And there's a high degree of innovation there. And then we have, of course we have the Italian restaurants. And we have the sort of, a lot of Asian style restaurants too that have taken the concept of Asian dining but taken away from the strip lights and formica tables to a sort of more Western style environment where you can get beautiful Thai food or Vietnamese food or mixtures.
You're very, very close to so many fantastic wine regions here. Do the restaurants here embrace all of the local wine, or does one see wines from all over the world?
Look, we see wines from all over the world. There's a whole class of young, funky sommelier who's getting all those young, funky wines from Europe. They're great. But also, Victoria is probably one of the premier wine regions in Australia, and not known for it, I think, worldwide. We tend to be known for our big Barossa Shirazes or Chardonnays, but here we've got a lot of cold climate wines in Victoria, using more smaller European varieties of grapes, the Vermentinos. More recently here, we thought we were buying some Albarino stock for wineries, and it turned out to be Sauvignon. That's not Sauvignon Blanc,
Yes,
it's Sauvignon, which has created interesting wines, which is surprisingly like Albarinos, but Pinot Grigio, which is now mainstream, Pinot Noir, beautiful soft Pinot Noirs here, and Tempranillos, all sorts of interesting diverse grapes. And they're largely coming out of the cold climate regions in the north here. But there's a wine in Victoria which would probably match any wine with a particular grape variety worldwide. I don't think a lot of people know about that because a lot of them are smaller wineries.
What does good food and good wine mean to you?
Well, for me, it's about friends as well. It's about being with people you love and want to be with, and sharing food. And it's a dining trend where we share food at the table and we share wine.
Well, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution in this alleyway in Melbourne this evening. We look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Good, thank you, Jamie.